Good morning.
Good morning.
Forgive me if I'm a bit emotional. I tend to cry a lot. The folks who know me back in Magdalene, where I'm from, they call me Crying Mary, because I cry all the time. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry with shame. I cry with shame because I know why Jesus died. He died for me. He died because he died because I couldn't follow him the way I was supposed to. I was one of those people, you know. The ones your parents don't want your sons associating with, but one of the ones that all the sailors in the Navy try to find. Rumor had it that there were vending machines more selective about the coins they take than I was about the men I was with. And I even got in trouble for that with the priests. They wanted to condemn me. I'm going to put this over here. I went to put that on his grave this morning. It wasn't there. The grave was empty and I couldn't understand why. But I wanted to go one more time and say thank you. Thank you for what he had done for me. Because he loved me when no one else would. There was a time when the whole town condemned me. But he didn't. Not that man. He just shared God's love with me. And it changed my entire life. I decided I was going to follow him and be one of his disciples. My late husband had left me a nice inheritance. And so I was able to use that money to help support Jesus and his disciples. In fact, there were several of us women of means, and we provided the groceries for them. We provided money for lodging when they needed it. It was the least we could do to say thank you to him. But I wanted to do more. And there was a time when he was in someone's home for a meal, and I started crying again. I went into the house with an expensive jar of perfume, and I knelt at his feet, and I just couldn't stop crying. And as I cried, the tears just dropped from my face onto his feet. And I used that to wash his feet, and then wiped his feet with my hair. And then I broke open that jar of lotion and spread it all over his feet. Oh, the aroma just filled the room. And even then, some of his disciples got their knickers in a twist. Why was that money wasted? It could have been given to the poor. The master understood. He knew what I was doing, and he knew I was doing it out of love. And then they arrested him. I couldn't understand it. Just days earlier, we had all marched into the city of Jerusalem. I think I shouted louder than anyone, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest. But I guess that was too much for the priests to handle. And so they trumped up some charges. And they put him through the mockery of a trial. Brought him to Pilate, who ordered his execution. The women and I stood on the side of the road as he walked to the place of execution. Guess what I was doing? I was crying. And he stopped and looked at us and said, "Women, don't cry for yourselves. Cry for those who are to follow you." And so I stood at a distance and I watched him die. And thankfully, there were those who were willing to be responsible for his body. And we went with them and put his body into the cave. But it was almost sundown. And the Sabbath was about to begin. And you don't care for the dead on the Sabbath day. So we left. We heard on Saturday that the priests had gone to Pilate and he said he was going to rise again. You better put a guard in front of the tomb, because otherwise the disciples will come and steal his body and say he has risen, and that will be worse than it was when he was alive. So they put a large stone in front of the entrance to the cave and marked it with the seal of Caesar and posted sentries. Who posts sentries to guard a dead man? And so early on Sunday morning, we got up, these friends of mine and I, and we were determined to go and finish what we had started on Friday. And so we had our spices and our ointments. And as we walked, we said to one another, how are we going to convince the soldiers to roll the stone away? My old ways came back to my mind. I thought of flirting with them. But as we got there were no soldiers. I know I flirt pretty good. I'm kind of cute, you know. And the soldiers were gone. And the stone that had been in front of the entrance to the cave had been rolled away. I didn't know what to think. And so we rushed into the tomb. And he was gone. His body was not there. Guess what I did? I cried. I couldn't understand why they would move him like that. And so the other women ran off to tell Jesus' disciples. But I just had to stay. I wanted to be there, to spend just another few minutes in his presence, even if he wasn't there anymore. And I dropped down to my knees and put my head in my hands, and I just sobbed. And I cried until there were almost no tears left. He'd had such promise for us and was treated so horribly, and I loved him so. Mary. I heard the voice, but it didn't register. Mary. I thought it was the gardener. And with my head down, I said to him, "Sir, if you have moved his body, tell me where you have put it, and I will go to him." Mary. Wait. I know that voice. I recognize that voice. It's his voice. And with tears in my eyes, I looked up, and it was him. Oh, I wanted to embrace him. I wanted to hold him. I never wanted to let him go. But he said, no. Go tell my friends what I have said to them. I ran back. He's alive! He's alive! You're sitting there looking at me like I'm nuts. Don't you get it? He is alive! He who was dead, he who was lost, he who we thought was gone forever is alive. I didn't think I had any tears left to shed. But I started crying again. Because he was alive. Look at me. I can't stop crying. Tears of joy. You know, when you're 2,000 years old, your knees get a little sore. We worship God with our offering.